And we're live here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive. This is an exciting interview for me because we have Kristofer Kody here, and I have not seen or talked to Christopher in a long time. He was actually a student of mine
Yeah.
when I was teaching animation at Laguna College of Art and Design. I don't know, that was like
A lot.
2006, 2007?
Yeah, long time ago. I remember, I think I graduated in 2009, so it had to have been one of those years.
Yeah, something like that. So, well, first of all, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think it's a great thing you're doing. I'm looking forward to learn more about it and contributing whatever I can.
Yeah, this is the reason I asked Christopher to be here is because he's been posting all these like transformation that he's done and like workouts and things, and I just thought he'd be perfect for the group. So, um, why don't you start by just introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Sure. Gosh, loaded question there. Yeah, so my name's Chris, and I've got a wife, a beautiful wife with five wonderful kids, ranging from 13 down to one. A little surprise there. And we have been, we're in Bakersfield, California, and I do a lot of things, including videography and the occasional, art gig, as it were, all the way down to salesman, business to business. And in between that, I do my best to try and help people see similar successes that I've had recently and even in the past doing, fitness. Um, uh, with that, I mean, that's kind of where that kind of leads right into what, an aside, I think I told you a little bit about, I performed as a knight at the Renaissance fairs, which is a lot of fun. I used to be a knight at medieval times, way back even before we met at Laguna, and took that training to the Pacific Northwest, and used to do that with some friends of mine in the past few years, and a lot of fun. But that kind of leads to where I was most recently. I had a great weight loss journey back in 2015-ish time. I was working, crunch times, 12 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week in Burbank, and gained a bunch of weight, eating all the snacks there and everything, and just was just feeling the that oppressive force that comes from staring at a screen all day long. And um, my wife and I were using Beachbody programs at the time, Insanity, P90X, all that kind of stuff, and they had a really neat um, nutrition element that was very simple. And I'll get more into that later for my round two. But this is kind of our round one to prove that we could do it and that these programs actually worked. Just push and play every day. It took away the time to travel to a gym, the time getting ready at the gym, the time wasted at the gym when you're waiting for, equipment or whatever it might be, as well as lack of programming. How many of us are like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. This is my program. I'm going to stick to today, and how that becomes very variable when you need to go and do this in a certain amount of time at the gym. And so stuck to that. I lost 50, almost 60 pounds. I think that first go, got down to 207. Very, very healthy, very active, and then as life kept going, we tried to stick within that, working out and similar nutrition. And then I just kind of allowed more garbage in, right? As time went on, sure, I'll have this treat. Or we'll have a glass of wine on Fridays, which also became Saturdays, which became two glasses, which became a glass of scotch. It became all these different things. And then over time, regained a lot of that weight. And we actually, with the stressors of having more kids, don't get me wrong, I love my kids and they're amazing, and I wouldn't put anything on them besides the fact that it is challenging. So if there's mothers and fathers out there who are struggling, I am with you in that foxhole, because it is rough. It's the most beautiful, wonderful thing I feel like we can go through as human beings, is having children, but at the same time, it is very difficult, and it wears on you, mentally, emotionally, physically, everything. And so now that we've uh, brought on to five kids, in the last 2 years, we had 5 kids, and I was working 2 jobs consistently, as well as doing this fair stuff during the summers, just to kind of make ends meet, slash, keep sanity and all that kind of thing. And and so my wife was very kind and signed me up. She was staying true on her path. She was did this new program that Body came out with. Beachbody rebranded to Body, and a little bit ago, and so now they're called Body. So if you hear me going back and forth, apologies. But called Belle Vital, and it's like I call it the Spanish Inquisition because it's utilizing bands and things and doing Pilates, and but I have seen her just shred up and not even blink an eye. It looks like it's easy. It's not. All right. She works hard to do that, but at the same time, it was a really successful program for her. And so here she is getting shredded up, and I feel like I'm just kind of softening up more and more. And but I couldn't get consistency. With between broken sleep at night with a little one. Well, the bottom three I call them. The 1 through 8. Sometimes they just need more, and so broken sleep, you know, workflow that is constantly demanding. That I'm either getting things done in a certain time for deadlines, or actually physically need to be out in the field, as well as times I was away for the fairs and doing that, and the stress that travel brings, all those things that compound. And I was brought back to a place of not only not feeling right in my skin, things feeling tight, but also the mental barrage that brings too, of like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. Why can't I keep this off? Like, what happened, and can I do it again? I was in my 30s then. Now I'm, 42, actually 43, just had a birthday. And now I'm in my 40s, and, and that lie that lingers, like, oh, well, once you hit that 40-year-old mark, you're actually gonna, things are gonna hurt more, things are gonna, you're not gonna be able to recover fast enough, and all that kind of stuff. And um, you know, and really just the lack of consistency, and not feeling it felt like grasping at straws, when I was trying to, okay, I'm gonna get up early every morning, and I'm gonna do my workout, and it's gonna be great, and I'm gonna meditate and pray, and I'm gonna do all these great things, and then the next day comes up, and it's like, oh my gosh, I overslept because I was woken up twice last night, and on and on and on and on, and it just wouldn't work. And so finally, I say by the grace of God, because I feel like God used my wife to just sign me up for this test group, and I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. And then, next thing I know, I get an email. They want to interview me. I'm like, okay, maybe this is actually gonna happen. So do the interview, and they're like, okay, cool. Well, you're accepted. You're part of the test group. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. And then, we start doing it, and like, this is a new program coming out, and I'm thinking, well, at least I'll be a part of a community, right? Because community, I feel like, really can get you to move forward in those things, because you're now accountable to someone, but also receiving encouragement from them as well. And I thought, okay, well, at the very least, I'll at least have someone to answer to, as it were. Um, and then they're like, oh, this is going to be a program. It's only going to be 25 minutes a day. And I was like, really? 25 minutes a day. So I have two thoughts. One is, thank God, I'm actually have something I might be able to attain here. I might actually be able to get that consistency I've lacked. But two is like, really? 25 minutes? That's it? Are you sure? What kind of hidden workouts and ab crunches are going to be involved in this, and whatever. And so we go through it. I do the first week, and I am like, this is real. This is legit, because in that 25 minutes, I'm being pushed. I'm feeling like I'm really worked out. I don't feel like I'm lacking anything. And then the consistency over the week, and it is 7 days, 6 days of actually workouts, 1 day of kind of like a mobility and recovery kind of thing. And in those 6 days especially, I felt like I was worked out. And not only that, but if you stay consistent, because in 25 minutes you can only do so much, right? And in each workout, it's like there's a lower day and a upper day and a core day, and then again lower and upper, and so if you do the entire week, you're really hitting everything, right? But if you only did 1 day a week, then you're only going to get X amount, right? So here I am. I'm doing this thing, and it's 8 week program, and I go through the 8 weeks, and I am down nearly 20 pounds, and uh, starting to really see shapes that I hadn't even seen. And I've been an athlete in the past, and I've, done these stunt shows, for lack of a better term, word. And so I'm like, wow, like I didn't know I could really get that, you know. And I've even done beach body programs in the past, you know. And I'm like, I'm seeing things that I've never really seen before. And so by popular demand from our test group, we're like, we don't want to do a round two. And they're like, well, 2 rounds of tests, you know, would probably be great. So they're like, okay, cool, we'll do another round. And so we did that second round, and I even, you know, and they were great. And I'm gonna touch on the nutrition part in just a second here because that's what really helped dial all this in, right? I mean, the workouts are fantastic, and being only 25 minutes allowed me to be consistent because I'm sure, as you know, Derek, the consistency is the key when it comes to your fitness.
Absolutely.
Constantly going, constantly pushing, constantly putting yourself through that will help so much. But I was seeing the scale changes, but more importantly, the non-scale changes, right? Like I was getting to the point beforehand, I kid you not, I would take my little girls upstairs and for bed, my 3-year-old especially, and I would stay there with her, and she'd be in her little toddler bed, and I'd hold her hand or whatever, and I'd be laying on the ground, and I'd go to get up and I'd have this racking back spasm. And like I was like, what is going on? And it became more and more consistent. And that was definitely tied to my how heavy I was getting and out of shape. And now I'm even just a couple weeks into the program, and I was carrying her up the stairs without losing my breath. And I was able to do these things and get up and down from the floor without having any these like back pains or anything. And like that, this is huge, you know. And I'm like, this is how life is supposed to be. So fast forward to the 16-week mark of this program, and I'm down. I didn't lose as much weight after that second thing because I was getting to my kind of like, you know, stasis weight, as it were, you know. So I'm down to like down what I come, I was started like at two, just about 240. Now I'm down to like 211, 212, something like that. And I might even lost a few since then, actually. But what we did is we tweaked the nutrition a little bit because I was like, hey, I like the weight I lost, but now I'm starting to see some shapes. What can we do to change? Like, I want to start doing the, you know, kind of shape shifting, as it were, you know what I mean? And so they tweaked it up a little bit so I would still be, you know, and mind you, so let me, and I'm going on, please guide me. I can go on rabbit holes and stuff like that. But
Well,
this,
let's before we get into all the nutrition,
yeah, yeah,
let's talk about that going back to your that first time you had the transformation and went
yeah.
with the beach body. Like what was the what was that aha moment that said, okay, now it's time to make a change?
Okay. And that's a good question. I mean, it's a little while ago, but um, I do remember just feeling, you know, the feelings were like blah, right? I mean, for lack of a better scientific term, you know, blah is really covers it, you know, constantly pursuing the sweets and stuff like that in order just to kind of hit the symptoms, which were probably mild depression, you know, and looking back on it more in hindsight, it probably was that, right? I'm commuting every day, an hour and a half each way. I'm there at least 12 hours, and I've been gone for 6 days. I got two little boys at the time, and you know, and I'm hardly seeing anybody. I do remember a moment. I think it was in the evening. I was calling my wife on my break, and I told her I was like, I'm not thinking this way for myself, but I'm starting to understand how someone would want to take their life because things were becoming so meaningless because I am putting in all my time to make something that's making other people rich that a lot of people don't care about. Mind you, at the time I was doing 3D conversions. So the film's already done. You know, these Marvel films already, or they're ready to go. It's just for the 3D release so that people who want to see it in 3D can enjoy it at the depth and all that kind of stuff. And so in my mind, I was like, people, not everybody even wants this in the first place. It's not saving a life. It's not changing a life. It's just, you know, giving somebody, you know, a couple hours of you know, escapism, and even then, they could still have that without my part in it, right? So like everything I was doing, I mean, and even then, on the personal side, yeah, I'm making a paycheck that's providing for my family that I never see and I never get to engage with. and I'm like, wow, like again, I wasn't ever contemplating anything like that to harm myself, but I was getting to the place where I could understand and kind of sympathize with people who were in those dark moments, right? And so it was that kind of thinking. I was like, something needs to change. And at the very least, it needs to be something that I can have because would have no energy at home, right? Even my one day off or whatever, I would go home and I'd be like, And so after making those changes, and really pursuing that and seeing the weight drop off, I was had way more energy on my days off and the days I was there and everything. And my mental shift was huge too because you feel better. Your endorphins are going, and so you actually have a better outlook, even though you're in the same situation, right? So I think that was really it was that dark moment where I was like, something needs to change, and I think that was it, because I can't remember anything else really aside from just feeling horrible, constantly trying to you know feel better in the moment, right? And that's what we do. We eat the things, we eat the treats or whatever it is to kind of suffocate that feeling of, bleh, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there too. I think when I was at my low point, I never, I never contemplated like suicide, but I was, I never felt like I was depressed.
Yeah.
But looking back, I see that I probably was.
Right. Absolutely. And hindsight's 2020, as they say,
Right.
so I totally see that. And it is amazing because the whole experience is I mean there's definitely that physical element, but there's that huge mental shift that has to happen. And then, I mean, in reality, I mean, I kind of liken it to the same struggle like an addict has to go through, right? Because let's be serious, friends. When we're in those spots where we're looking to food of any kind, or drink or whatever to uh, kind of numb or have that escapism from where we're at or how we're feeling and stuff, it's an addiction. That's I mean, and I've heard it said, and I believe it, is that sugar, processed sugar, is more addictive than cocaine, right? So it's something, and it's everywhere we go, right? I mean, you like to drink a soda, well, that soda turns into five pretty easily, and why have a couple M&Ms when I can have a whole bag? Why have one slice of pizza when I get a whole thing? We just it goes over and over, and
Yeah, if sugar was illegal, like drugs are, I
yeah.
think people would realize how much of a problem it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard because you have to almost begin learn how to exercise even more self-control with your nutrition than you would necessarily with a substance, right? Now don't get me wrong, I don't want to downplay obviously the addiction of substance abuse and everything like that because that is huge. I grew up with my mom was an addict and so I've seen it firsthand how that stuff can really destroy you as well as the people around you and everything like that. But I think that's what's so dastardly about our kind of social mentality when it comes to eating and the experience of eating. And we've made it such that it is an experience, a shared experience, and that we give ourselves over to eat and drink and be merry on and to a degree that is great actually to share with people. It's celebrating life, you know what I mean, that kind of thing, but you still have to exercise self-control so that it stays a celebratory thing and not something that you're giving yourself over to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because all too often we'll do that and then it makes the shift back to healthy very difficult, right? um when it comes
Yeah.
to a lot of sugary things and treats and drinks, alcoholic drinks especially, I mean, it's in a way, I mean, you almost have to look at it as a poison, right? And it's like, okay, well, how much do you really want to poison yourself tonight? And it's
Yeah.
like, and a sane person would be like, well, none, not at all. I don't want to poison myself at all, But um, there's also an element of I guess, craftsmanship in a way that we as mankind like to. delight the senses, right? We like to experience the delight. We like to share the delight. And so, in that sense, those things in and of themselves aren't evil per se, but how we
Yeah.
treat them and if, when we give them lordship over our lives, now we're in trouble, right? Because
Yeah.
we're not meant to serve food, right?
Yeah.
Food's meant to serve us, and so that was a huge shift. And then that was, if I could go on to the nutrition
Yeah, let's
aspect,
talk about that for sure.
the tool that we were given in the test group and that my wife and I explored even before the first time that was so successful for us is they call it the portion fix. And what it is this simple, it takes the idea of like macro counting and simplifies it to a dummy like myself can just follow it and see success. So you basically you come up with your caloric range based off an equation, of like current body weight, height, and then activity level, what you're looking to do with your fitness, whatever. And it gives you kind of pluses or minuses and stuff like that. So once you get that, it's very easy to follow. Then it gives you a caloric range. And it says basically if you're within this range over here, then you're an A or a B or a C or whatever. And that tells you how many it's a color coded container system. So what it is you get like my caloric range, I think I get five reds, which are your proteins, five greens, which are your vegetables. I think three or four yellows, which are your grains, right? Or your that's basically where everything like corn, potatoes, wheat, bread, all those different things lives. The stuff that we love to stuff ourselves with.
Yeah.
And then of course, there's a one for healthy fats and seeds, and even all the way down to like nut butters and oils and stuff like that. Uh, and so it tells you how many of those you get for the day. So now you have your basically your caloric food budget for the day. And then it encourages you to plan, do your meal planning with those in mind so that you're, fueled properly for the day. And, so you're not just eating all your food at the end of the day kind of thing, I mean, keeping your metabolism going. You wake it up in the morning and you keep it going throughout the day. And not only is it telling you the quantities, but then they also give you lists of like quality foods, right? So it's like, okay, let's look at the yellows, right? Okay, well, at the top of the list, you're going to have your quinoas and your like, sweet potato or that kind of stuff. And then at the bottom of the list, you're going to have your, rice cake or your, just your slice of bread. You know what I mean? Like it's not off the list, but it's low on the list, and so you want to try and aim higher to have the best nutrition for your body, right? And so in that realm, the Kodiak cake multigrain waffle saved my life because that was my breakfast every morning. I'd have one waffle and two eggs, and that's one red, one yellow. Boom, great start to the day. And then I'd just count from there basically. And then post test group, because test group we're like, okay, what we're gonna do, no goodies is going to be completely just straight good stuff and all of that. And it was fantastic. I felt good. And it actually felt like something I can maintain, right? Even if at that strict level, I feel like I'm not missing anything. I feel good. Um, but then afterwards, I'm like, well, now I don't feel like necessarily guilt and shame if I'm going to have a, scoop of ice cream with my kids or something like that. But then now it's programmed in my mind. I need to plan for that, right? Because there's an element to our daily consumption that we don't think about is just the regular person, right? We go, I had breakfast. Okay, cool. I'm feeling kind of hungry. I'm gonna have this lunch. It's gonna be this giant salad, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. I feel good about myself because I ate vegetables, in a salad, but then I also had to douse it with, ranch dressing and had a soda with it and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm gonna have a snack later, and then I'm gonna have this, and then we're having ice cream tonight. Sweet, let's have ice cream. Okay, cool. Oh, and it's like add and then and then and then and then. Whereas this system, it's like, okay, you can still have that salad, but now let's think, how many containers am I using to have that salad? Or can I portion off that salad? So now I have four salads. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, that's great.
not only that, but hey, we're gonna go out on Friday, and I want to make sure I save a yellow or two so that I can have a drink with my wife or something like that. So it's not off the menu, or not off the table. It's planned for. So it's not, and then it's a instead of, right?
Yeah.
And then you really weigh, hey, do I really want that? Or do I really want this, and it makes it, it allows you to become a little more snobby, right? Because you're like, oh, well, do I really want to have that bag of M&Ms, or do I want to have that nice dark C's chocolate, like
Yeah.
that kind of thing, because you start thinking, what am I putting in my body? Am I putting the best, or am I just putting in garbage?
Yep. I always tell my clients there, people I work with, that, have the healthy option first, and then if you're still craving that piece of chocolate, like have some fruit,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Go for whatever sweet, have that fruit. And if you still feel like a piece of chocolate after that, okay.
right. And that's actually to the point for this test group. Now, Body, they have a shake that's actually really good. It's their Shakeology, and it's
Oh,
like a
sure.
meal. It's basically they call it dense nutrition, right? And we've been using it for a long time, but I find just how valuable it is during that time when you're really trying to stick to this nutrition and everything. Because one, it tastes good, but you also know that even though I'm having a chocolate shake, as it were, it's full of natural, you know, ingredients that are going to actually benefit my body.
Yeah.
And what that helped my wife and I do a lot is because at the end of the day, after we're kind of beaten and like that, the one thing we do like to do is kind of sit down and before we would sit down and enjoy a glass of wine together, kind of digest the day and just, be in each other's presence, whether we're half asleep or we're actually having a conversation, and kind of sip on something. And so that was our kind of clutch swap, right? Is we'd make shakes at night. And so I'd have my, vegan chocolate shake with a little, teaspoon of peanut butter, and she would have her vanilla one, and we'd just sit there and we'd sip. And it was like, it made us not miss the alcohol whatsoever because it was never really about the alcohol. It was about sitting down and sipping something with each other, And so now
Yeah.
we're sipping something that's actually good for us. And that became, a huge linchpin that we actually carried on even beyond the test group and everything. We still do that today. And it's like, oh, do you want to have a glass of wine? Or we can, but kind of just want to have my shake. And
Oh, that's
so it
great.
kind of makes it easy. So,
Oh, really, really happy that you did this, Chris. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything that maybe you haven't shared yet that you want to
I
talk
could
about?
talk for days, man. But I mean, it's the journey is it is mental especially at first, right? You have to decide you want to make a change. And
Yeah.
that kind of like an addict's journey, it's like you have to understand there's something wrong and you need to take that step. Secondly, is you can't do it alone. You really can't. You need to have the support. Hopefully, that's in your home, but you have support here, right? In these groups, and I mean, you can join me too on Instagram or through Facebook as well. I'm trying to do the same thing that I got for myself because I found that when I was in that community and we're posting daily, hey, I'm checking in, I did my workout and I'm, still on, my nutrition, I'm not changing, and then you see other people doing it. You don't even have to comment, right? But you see people commenting, you see people in it, and you're like, they're there, and you feel seen, that you're doing it, you're part of this group, and you're moving forward. And then eventually you do start sharing, right? Because you're like, wow, I'm actually seeing success, so and that it feeds off each other, right? Success feeds success, and you see it in other people and you want it, it inspires you do it, you encourage other people and they encourage you, and it could be as simple as like, well done, bro, or good job, man, or whatever it is, and it's like, and that's what keeps you going, right?
Yeah.
And then you see the results, and that helps change your mind from this is so hard to this is life-giving, right? This is worthwhile. And then you just keep going, right? So, I mean, you can do so many different things when it comes to fitness. You can do so many different things. Um, well, I was gonna say with nutrition, but I do believe that there's a certain way we're supposed to eat. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so take care of yourself. Quantity and quality is paramount with good water and sleep. And so you get those four things going for you. Why I like the portion fix is that well, why I like Body, if I might make an aside there, why I like it, why I believe what they're doing is great is they take out the excuses as many as possible, right? I don't have time. Nope, doesn't work anymore. I can't follow it. Nope, it's really simple, right? these things, it's designed to work, right? And you can do it, and it's not some fad thing that you do and you hate life and then you do it and you gain your weight back. It's you do it and then it becomes your lifestyle. It's easily to become your lifestyle. And once it's your lifestyle, you're winning because that's what you want. You don't want to change your weight or your waistline. You want to change your life, and you want to have it so that it's life giving, not life stealing, right? Um,
Right.
so that's what I have to
Yeah.
say about that.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, that's what I always tell people. It's about creating healthy habits. Once we change your beliefs, change your mind, so we have these healthy habits, it doesn't feel like work anymore. It's just
Right.
part of your daily routine. And that's, like you said, consistency over time is is what's going to help you, lose the weight and get healthy. So
Absolutely.
really
Absolutely.
appreciate, Chris, you sharing your story. And I know you inspired some people here today. It's been really great. So, um, everybody who's watching, if you were inspired by Chris or you resonated with his story and you want to connect with him, he's going to put links in the comments here. You maybe have questions about the body program that he did, so he'll be able to answer those for you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so Chris, thank you so much for doing this. This was so good. It was great to reconnect and hear your story. And thank you everybody for watching. And like I said, connect with Chris if you resonated. And if you want to share your story and be spotlighted here in Nourish, Heal, and Thrive, go ahead and comment interview and we'll connect with you so you can share your story or get support for whatever you're struggling with. So we'll say thank you one more time, and we'll see everybody at the next one.